Who can I trust? Who would I trust? Who does it work to trust? Well, it depends on trusting them for what exactly. I'm going to give a few examples and specify some groupings of people and situations in which I would trust different kinds of folks. And then I'm going to review trusting the mainstream media in particular. This will be in a separate video. Trusting the mainstream media in particular, education institutions, and governments, and finally churches. A few quick examples. So if I was, let's say I get out of a building and I go to a bus stop and there's some kids there, and I ask them, "Did you see a bus come that direction?" And if they tell me yes, I can reasonably believe that they are giving me an accurate information because it's basic, simple testimony that they would know through direct observation themselves, and I can trust them because they're giving me an answer from a position of naivety. At least they don't know why I'm asking. They're innocent. They're unsophisticated. They're just going to give me a quick response. So, very simple, direct question, very simple, direct response. If they say yes, I can be pretty confident that a bus went by, however I specified. And so another group of people, let's say I have a classroom full of kids. Now these are kids that I'm a teacher, let's say, and there's a group of students in there. I see them day after day, and I ask them something like, who of you are ready to turn in your homework assignments? Again, this is a pretty reliable response that I'm going to get because they're my students in my classroom, and if they say, yes, I've got my homework ready to turn in, they can probably anticipate that I'm going to then ask them to turn it in. So it's going to be very quick. If I wanted to verify it, it would be easy to do. So I would trust in the second category, not people who are naive as to why I'm asking, but people who have some familiarity with me, and I would trust them only for doing things that they would expect to benefit by doing. Like they would expect, if I say, have you done your homework, and they say yes, then I'm going to give them a completion grade. I'm going to give them credit for having done the assignment, and that they would suffer for not responding. Let's say I ask them, who here knows I could be something real simple like an answer to a test question, and if they give the wrong answer, there's some kind of penalty. I could say you set up a game where if you give the wrong answer, you're out, and then it's the other team's turn or whatever. So if I expect them to really be interested in the rewards and the punishments or risks, then I can trust them. They're dependent on me as the referee or as the authority, and I can use multiple sources for certain things. Like let's say there's an incident in the classroom where somebody drew something on the chalkboard while the teacher wasn't looking, but and during the class, so the teacher knows, the whole class knows. And then the teacher can say, I'm going to ask each of you one by one, unless the person who did this just stands up. Well, they can expect that they're going to be, whoever did it can expect to be identified. So they might just identify themselves. It's not, it's also possible that 3 people would stand up and all say, I did it. Well, when you have a lot of people who are kind of, they're more loyal to you than they are to each other because of some kind of dependency that way. It could be children, it could be like one's own offspring, it could be employees. There's a number of situations where there's some some dynamic there where you can trust the group. You're not necessarily trusting them individually, but if you get multiple sources of information and they overwhelmingly agree, that's pretty reliable. So that's a really different kind of trust than trusting for simple information from one innocent bystander. This is where people have a really vested interest in providing correct information. If they provide incorrect information, they may recognize that they could be punished or lose rewards, whether it's a game or a grade or something much more intense and intimidating. So that would be a second group. Oh, it could be I tell somebody that I'm going to give a couple companies a chance to give me a bid on doing termite work or doing a repair to my roof or something like that. And I tell them I'm going to get multiple bids, so I want you to give me a reasonable bid and give me the correct information. Or I say to somebody I'm going to be taking this car to 2 different places to have them verify how functional it is before I make an offer to buy it or complete the offer or whatever. Is there anything you want to tell me now? And if they know something, they're probably going to tell me, right? So those would be some cases where, in that case, it would be with a single person, but you can trust them because of the group. If you're bringing in contractors to bid on the roof, they're not going to tell you, oh, you only need to do a $200 repair, when they know that other people are going to come in and say, wow, you know what, you folks really need to take care of some major structural issues here. So they're going to be attentive. If they make a bid and you have a bunch of independent people offering the information, you can count on it. They're going to be attentive. They're going to be specific about what they tell you, especially if you are conspicuous in telling them, I'm getting information from multiple competent sources. All right, so now the third group. For things that no one else would risk telling me, or that others might not even notice, but that I can directly verify independently, who would I trust? I would trust those whose self-interests are conspicuous, that they're not going to be trying to manipulate results. An individual person, I can tell. If they tell me something very unusual, and it's, like if I go to somebody and say, I want to buy a certain roof, I want to sell it to you, and they say to me something like, well, you know what, in your situation, I don't think this roof would be very useful, but I can tell you the kind of thing that I would recommend for you. I can't help you with that, but I can tell you what I recommend. Well, that kind of thing, I mean, they're speaking against some kind of obvious self-interest of their own. Generally, their warnings could be considered reliable. If they're competent in the field and they tell you, no, you should do something different and I can't provide it for you, but here's what you should do, that often is reliable. That's often something you can trust if that kind of information comes up. It could be something where their self-interest is really conspicuous, like I call up a business and say, hey, do you have any of the following item in stock right now? I want to come get it right now. Well, they know that saying yes is going to mean I'm going to come get it or ask price or whatever, and their interest is to sell me that thing. So I can rely on them to give me accurate information. If I say, hey, would you double, if they say, no, we don't have it, and I say, hey, will you double check? Would you actually go and look on your shelf and double check and see if you have that particular volume of that particular item? And they go, they get off the phone and then they come back and then they give me whatever answer. I expect that they've really given me the right information. So again, we're just exploring a couple cases where trust works, where it's very reliable to trust a person in any of the situations I just described. Now I'm going to do a separate video in which I'll talk about mainstream media, governments, and education institutions as it relates to everything I just said. and then a final video as it relates to churches.